Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dojo Live. Today is Tuesday, February 1st, 2022, very first day of the month, and the first live show of the month. I'm Tulio Siragusa, broadcasting from Southern California. Joining me today is Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico. Hi, Kim, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
And Dan Gusz, who's the CEO at Lloyd. Welcome to the show from Ohio. Good to have you with
from
us.
New York City today.
New York City today. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
And it's
my old
Guz.
stomp.
Guz.
Guz. My old stomping
I
ground.
gotta correct you. We gotta do the due diligence because I know our guests are planning not to correct you.
Thanks, Cam.
Kim is on it today.
So Kim would fit right in New York City. She's no problem living there. So in any case, so what we're talking about careers today. But before we do that, let's get to know our guest a little bit. Dan, if you could be so kind, tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about your company, Lloyd, see what that's all about. Welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Originally grew up in the Midwest, spent some time there, went to school in New York State, and ended up in New York City and been here for the last decade or so. Work-wise, worked in consulting for a few years, and then went to a very, very early stage digital health startup where we focused on helping cancer patients take their medication. So we built technology, both hardware and software, to help cancer patients remember and to follow through in taking their medication. All the while, certainly, I've been interested in eventually founding my own company at some point. Came together with my sister and founded Lloyd in 2020. Wasn't because of pandemic, but certainly timing kind of overlapped. My background is in startups. Her background is a lot is in education in the kind of broader education arena. And so we came together to solve the tricky problem of how to help people navigate their careers as they go forward. I've been at it since then with Lloyd, and certainly can tell you all about that. Personally live in New York City, a small little 9-month-old that you may hear in the background at some point, and enjoying the 20-degree weather here in New York City right now.
Congratulations on the addition to the family and the baby. Yes, cold. It's cold. I don't miss it. I have to admit, I do not miss that. But let's talk about Lloyd. What is the company all about? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we founded the company really with a pretty simple premise. We wanted to figure out and help the process of navigating your career. It was a simple premise because we felt ourselves it's hard to navigate your career, and I don't know how much the three of us have in common. I do know that it is the furthest all three of us are in our careers today, and that's the reality for everyone. And it's tough because you've never done it before, right? But we're all kind of expected to be experts in how we navigate our careers, and I think that's kind of a false a false premise that we all should know exactly what we need to do. And so we set out to solve that problem, and we started to figure out what types of individuals struggle the most, where to find those individuals, what type of service and support can best them, and what technology to build to do that. And so fast forward to today, we are really tackling, you can think of it almost as the last mile in careers. And so when individuals are going through any type of education program, whether that's through a university, whether that's through a new certification, whether that's through a reskilling organization, whatever it might be, our partners are able to provide them with one-on-one career advising through Lloyd. So we partner with these organizations to provide this to their students. And what that looks like is whenever you join Lloyd, you're partnered with a career advisor. That career advisor helps you from day one navigate going forward. We create step-by-step guides so that you have a sense of structure. How am I actually navigate going forward? Those get personalized by your advisor and by you. So it's constantly learning what's best for you as you move forward. Your advisor is there to provide accountability and to give you feedback along the way. And accountability is a really tough thing in careers because no one's telling you what to do, right? This is all up to you. And so we're there to help support students, alumni, and working professionals as they navigate their careers going forward from that educational experience and onward.
Very cool. All right, let's get into the topic today. I'm curious to learn how coaching meets technology to make all this possible. Kim, please, let's kick it off.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tulio. Thank you, Dan, for being here. And that's exactly what we're talking about, how coaching meets technology with a modern approach to career support, and hoping to answer the question of how can career support be incorporated more closely into our lives. Before we do that, I do have one question, and that is the name of your company, Lloyd. I always find that first name companies intrigue me. Why is your company called Lloyd?
There won't be a book written about it, probably. We wanted to be a human name. Like, we wanted to be a name of a person, because ultimately we think having that human advisor there is important to create accountability, make sure you're actually following through with what you're doing. Test out some names early on. People liked it and kind of spiraled and snowballed from there. So there wasn't as much of kind of it was just kind of tested out, and people liked it and snowballed from there, and here we are.
That's right. I like it. The kind of your digital assistant, which goes really in line with what it is that you're doing. So
instead of saying Alexa, say Lloyd. Lloyd, help me with my career.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Didn't respond yet, but
I'll get back to you on that.
So I think the foundation for me, the biggest question is why we should be interested in career support. Now, I think this is a really big question to answer. I think it's probably varies from person to person. But why do you think that this is really foundational and really important for us as individuals and even as society?
Good question. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there. I think if you look at just the stats, what people say, individuals value their career typically as the second most important thing in their life, outside of family. That's for Americans. So, do individuals value it, and is it important to them? Yes. When you look at why anyone goes to an educational program, certification, upskilling, whatever it might be, typically over 90% of them say they're going there for career advancement. And so when you look at what's most important to people and why they're spending, oftentimes, I think I heard a stat recently that student debt is the largest asset in the US, or one of the largest assets, right? So why people are taking out debt, why they're investing their human capital, their financial capital to advance, it's because of career outcomes. And so what we've seen is that's what people want, but, and to your point earlier around how do we actually kind of use technology for that, we're trying to change the paradigm where a lot of career support is something where it's a bit of a one-way relationship. You might Google things and find out about them, and then you get a just plethora of information, almost too much to really make sense of. You may seek out support from your educational institution, from a service, whatever it might be, but that's you needing to seek it out. We're trying to change that relationship.
And that's sort of a blind leading the blind.
Yeah, you have to realize I need this, right? Something you maybe have never done before. Then find out what it is you need, then go seek it. We're trying to change that to say, we're going to come to you, right? So if you're part of any of the programs that we partner with, or you find out about Lloyd, like, we're going to come to you. We're going to be with you over your journey. So we're going to support you along the way. Your advisor is there 24/7. When you want to get in touch with them, you can go through our platform, contact them, and we're there to hold you accountable to those goals as you move forward. So it's not transactional where it's, okay, you want to do this one thing, great, I'll help you with this one thing and then move on. It's taking a longer term approach and trying to be with you over that journey. And so we use technology to scale that relationship. So a lot of the communication and the workflow is done asynchronously. We use technology to make sure that we're learning about what you need to accomplish, creating that plan for you, because a lot of people don't even have written down what I need to work on, right? And we get to the granular level of what you should be working on this week, right? Not just the macro, what do I want to do in 20 years? People kind of oftentimes will have some thought around that, but they need to take action today. They need to move forward on something today. And so our platform helps to write that out give them a sense of a plan, communicate with their advisor, and support them along that journey. And so by doing that, we're able to lower the costs of coaching by about 10x from what's out there
Wow.
today. That opens up access, so more people have the ability to get the support.
Speaking of lowering the cost of coaching, I know it can get pretty. You have some coaches, executive coaches, can easily charge in the upwards of $2,000 to $5,000 a month just for an hour of coaching a week, and some even more. Is this more on an hourly basis or a monthly subscription? How does the model work so that it makes it possible for people
Yeah.
to sign up?
So right now it's a monthly subscription of $30 per month.
That's it?
Yep. Human
Okay,
advisor.
so let's
$30 a month.
just let's
Do
just
this job.
unpack this, because that's amazing. Let's just unpack this a little bit, okay? So it's kind of like the Uber of coaching, right? You've got practitioners. I'm curious to find out how you're finding those practitioners, how you're signing them up, how do you compensate them properly with the subscription model being so low, and then how do you match up the right person with the right coach? Does the platform do all that? Do you have AI? Tell us a little bit about the ecosystem, if you will, on how it all works.
So there's no kind of like mysterious AI in the background. There's no black box algorithms that are happening. That's really for two reasons. One, I think we all need to be careful about those things. And two, we're an early stage company and we're still kind of figuring out what that will even be and what that may even look like.
Right.
So it's a little, it's less of like a, special matching process right now. Typically we'll match if, for any engagement we have, if it's for a particular university, a particular course, particular segment of students or alumni or individuals, we'll make sure that the advisor that's matched that it has some experience or training or understanding, or we've let them know here's kind of the folks that you'll be working with. But it isn't this like kind of black box AI matching. I think over time we'll get both smarter about that, and I think we'll create different ways that will match folks. We got to learn. We have to learn what that looks like and how it will go. We're really excited about the ability. This category is called human augmented by technology. So Katrina Lake, the founder of Stitch Fix, kind of coined that term, and there are a lot of companies within this category: Stitch Fix in the fashion space, Noom in the health and fitness space, Wellery in the nutrition space, Future in the fitness space, right? A lot in the health space, where we think we're the first to bring it to careers. And so we're really, I think we're excited about the ability to scale human coaching, to scale the ability for advisors to work with a greater number of individuals and to work with them, have more touch points over time. And that's what technology allows you to do. So it doesn't take the human away, but it kind of gives them superpowers. So they can work with more folks on a more ongoing basis. And that creates accountability, which is what a lot of people struggle with in their careers.
The coaches, are they employees or independent contractors? How do you go about building the capacity to support the demand?
Yeah. So as with many of my answers now, this is subject to change and evolve as we as a company evolve. Right now, they're contractors. We work with them. They're typically, a lot of times we'll work at a university as a career advisor there, and then we'll work with us as well. And I think that we'll learn and we'll evolve that model over time. Some companies in the space have them as FTEs and work with them full time. Some have them as contractors. And so we need to learn. We need to figure it out over time. Contractor model works for us now, but it may not in the future. And I'll get back to you if that changes.
No, that's great. We get it. Do you foresee, I know it's too early and sometimes you end up starting with one thing and end up pivoting to something else based on what you learn. But do you have a vision perhaps that this could become the new norm in coaching period? I mean, not just career coaching, life coaching, executive coaching. You mentioned the example of Noom, which is a fantastic health dieting app that keeps people accountable and on point, and a lot of people have had a lot of success with that. So having that sort of partner accessible, it's a combination of people and technology, seems to be the way that a lot of people prefer to go because they can go at their own pace, right? So do you have a vision where this could be extended beyond career? And I'm asking this because quite often the limitations in career are actually issues that deal with beliefs and personal development challenges that impact people's career, which you end up doing a lot more life coaching than you actually do career coaching initially. Is that something you guys are seeing? What's your thoughts on this? And I know it's early, but I'm just curious where it's going, the trajectory so far.
It's a good question. I mean, we're definitely, want to be clear, we work in the career space, but you're exactly right. You can't really talk about careers without at least be cognizant of what's going on in the lives around those individuals. Someone may come to us and then in 3 weeks, they had to move. So everything they're working on is going to put on pause. And you know what? That was the right decision for them, right? You can't kind of force it to say, well, why didn't you do that this week? That's the reality. You have to fit within everyone, the lives that folks have. I mean, we're laser focused on the career space. The reality is the career space is such a big market right now on its own. It doesn't mean that there aren't additional opportunities for us. I'm not going to say never for anything, but we're laser focused on the career space, and even talking about the career space, you have to even get more specific to then talk about where we play. Right now, we go through university and other partners because we've seen that's a channel where people are oftentimes at an inflection point, right? So they may be 6 months from graduation. That's a time where they're really thoughtful about where my next steps are, and so that model will also evolve, but that's where we're playing right now.
Cool.
I'm really interested also in maybe plans for, obviously with privacy, but data collection in the sense of questions like, what does career advancement even mean? It's my understanding that socially, right, this is something that's shifting a lot, moving from what may have traditionally been, a title or strictly monetary compensation to purpose and mission and flexibility. So what are you seeing trending, or is this something that you're going to try to track? Like, what is career advancement and how can we incorporate that into the coaching, the support that you're providing?
It's a good question, actually. If you go to our website, we have a quiz on our homepage, and one of the first things you go through, answer some questions about yourself, what you're interested in doing, what's kind of top of mind for what you're trying to accomplish right now. And then one of the questions we ask is, we have a number of factors about what you value in your career. That could be compensation, impact within your organization, work-life balance, et cetera. And we ask you to rank them, kind of drag and drop and rank them, because it's inspired by academic research that showed that individuals that have more clarity around what motivates them had greater career outcomes. And, I think there's a both simple and very complex reasoning behind that. The simple, which is maybe I'll go now, is just if you know what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, you're working more towards that. You're more intentional with everything you're doing. I think there's a lot of more complex that I'm not smart enough to, explain to you around, behavioral psychology and why it's in, why that kind of mentally will motivate you as well. But I think simply, if you rank work-life balance as number one, A, it's really good for you to know that. And B, we're going to help then make sure that's part of your decision-making criteria. And in the future, if you get a job offer for, maybe a little bit of a raise, but it's going to be way worse work-life balance, well, we're going to be there to maybe bring that up to you and to say, hey, what about this? And so part of it is sometimes there can be a little bit of like reactionary decision-making careers where, oh, I had a bad day at work, I'm going to apply to a bunch of jobs on LinkedIn. Or, my boss said this one comment to me, now I don't like my job. And you know what? That does happen. Those are realities, but also what's kind of the larger picture goal. And we want to kind of balance both of those.
Nice. I'm curious too. I know you're talking mostly at the university level, people who are going to, jump into their careers. But is there a place for this type of career support? I think even earlier on, as we decide, what am I going to study, or am I going to go to college or university at all? And also, what about later in life, for those who are in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, looking for something different? What are your plans for either going even earlier or later in people's journey?
Yeah, I think we'll assess that. Again, it's such a big market that we kind of need to have some direction on where we want to play, or else and honestly, we probably can do a better job of even narrowing more of where our focus is right now. So, we generally operate and work with professionals earlier in their career. Yes, I do think there's an opportunity for people to think about this when they're, a freshman in college, when they're in high school, earlier. And yes, I think there's definitely an opportunity later in your career. I think, for later in your career, what we've seen is folks typically probably know the direction they're going to go in, and it's a little more about figuring out like how it's like kind of the climbing the ladder a little bit more, or it's much more narrower advice. They're looking for much more specialized. Um, we may get there. Right now, we focus a lot on the accountability piece. So it's less, here's that super granular piece of information about this one narrow, type of job. And it's more about kind of broad progression within your career. But over time, I think we'll figure out where we want to get more narrow and more specific. And it could be earlier, it could be later. Probably too early to say, I guess, where we want to focus from there.
No, I think that makes perfect sense too, even just from a business standpoint, right? To try to go, not be a mile wide and an inch deep, but to find that niche.
Yeah. Again, I think we have a lot of room to improve there. I don't think we're even doing
Yeah.
the best job there. We have a lot of room to improve there for sure.
You said something interesting before about helping people navigate from being reactive at times. The boss said something they didn't like, or a colleague, didn't like my shirt, whatever it is that triggers people to want to run away. All right. So let's talk about the Great Resignation a little bit. I have a theory, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this, being that your specialization is career planning. I think a lot of people have felt stuck for a couple of years, at home, and work is where we spend a great deal of if not the majority of our time. And making a change makes you feel sort of like unstuck, like you got something new and something exciting to look forward to. Is most of it people just being reactive to, I need a change because I've been stuck for 2 years, or something else? What are your thoughts? I'm curious to hear, based on, you guys are career support experts, what your thoughts are around what's happening with that today.
Yeah. My co-founder has a good thought around this, which is kind of, I think, boils down to, ignore the noise and focus on kind of what is best for you. There's an incredible amount of headlines about it. I think it fits into a nice narrative, which is why there are a lot of headlines. I'm still a little, and I think there's a lot of warranted reassessment. Some people have been calling it like the great reassessment, and some other kind of terminologies for it. So I think you're right that for a lot of people, there's maybe a sense of just kind of like, I want to wash my hands and kind of move on in a different direction or something new. I do think that's right. But that also, there's a lot of downside to doing that. Certainly making any career or job move is can be risky, can be needs to be thoughtful for individuals, and it's definitely a case by case basis for everyone. So I think a lot of the headlines have kind of painted it as this like kind of like rebellion of sorts, and I think that's a, I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but you have to focus on yourself, because there's not everyone can do that, right? Like a lot of people don't have the ability just to say, I'm going to change my job today, I'm going to change what I'm doing. Like that's a luxury if you're able to do that, and the vast majority of people cannot do that. Don't have the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I think, focus on what's right for you, figure out what's right for you, kind of ignore the headlines, because the headlines are these grand sweeping narratives around 3 million people here, 4 million people here. And I think
Well,
you got
yeah, I
to focus
mean,
on yourself.
sensationalism sells too, right? But
Yeah.
I was mostly curious as part of the career coaching. Sometimes people just need help realizing where they are is good enough is good. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just the next move. Sometimes is how do you progress within what you have? Yeah, and I think a lot of people think they have to leave to make progress, and I'm curious as to how you can help people
Right.
realize, okay, you've been there 5 years, you got all this institutional knowledge. How do you leverage that and capitalize on that to
Mm.
grow where you are? And I think there's definitely a gap in giving people advice or coaching them through that. It doesn't exist really. I mean, who are you going to go to? HR? It's just doesn't. It's not there.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I think with a tool like Lloyd, I think what I'm hearing, what's resonating with me are a couple words like empowerment, right? Allowing me to take steps. I like the accountability. I like how it seems to me that it makes things digestible. I, for one, in a lot of ways have ignored perhaps career advancement or many other facets in my life because right now I just feel overwhelmed and who has time for this, right? And so I think that you can break it down in what do you need to do this week versus, oh yeah, in 20 years I'll get there. It's really, really interesting, your approach and what you're doing. So thank you for that. Talking specifically about Lloyd and your company, I know you're in your early phases, but what is it like? Who's working with you? What's the company culture that you're looking to build? I mean, with the structure of what you're working for, I imagine that you've been quite intentional with that. So who are you working with? What is it like to work at Lloyd, and what type of people do you want working with you?
Yeah, so we're still a small team, small full-time team. We work with a lot of contractors, freelancers as well. So, at some points in our company, we've had folks across, I think we had, late last year, we had a all team kind of all hands of sorts that I think we were across 3 continents. I think it was 3 continents, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
4 time zones, 3 continents. So I'm a first time founder. Like there's a lot I need to work on and improve here. I think we're trying to be intentional. It is hard working remotely. We all work remotely, and I think there are a lot of advantages to that. I personally have found kind of like the midday run is a way for me to refresh myself and kind of get back to then work throughout the rest of the day. And that wasn't possible when I was going to an office all the time. So I love the ability to take advantage of that. I definitely find challenges in working remotely because, yes, you can get somebody on the phone or on a video conference at any point, but it still some of that kind of that dynamic nature of we're all in a room together whiteboarding or in the office passing each other, like you can't quantify it, and I'm not the first person to say this, but there is something there. And so I think we try to continue to get better at that, and in terms of internal communication and brainstorming and stuff like that. I think it's a pretty we're an early stage company, so we're always kind of in contact with each other, always trying to figure things out, always trying to, got this information, let's get on a call and talk about it. So it's been fun to kind of work with folks across the country, across the world, certainly. I think culturally we're trying to do, it's a small team, so it's not like we don't talk with each other, but I think we're still trying to maybe figure out some ways to also build that internal culture because it is hard. Like we found it fully remotely. It is hard to kind of what's that like pulse on the company. Most companies talk about their physical space a lot of times. Cool
Mhm.
office, dogs in the office, we have food, etc.
Yeah.
And I think we're trying to still figure that a little bit of that out, honestly, of what that looks like at the company, and we'll get there. But
Yeah. Well, I think you've got a good start, at least the flexibility of a midday run, and extending that same type of flexibility to your team is a good place, I think, to start, of course. Yeah.
So before we go, we're up on time. Before we go, just curious, you say you're a first time entrepreneur. What was that like, that decision for you? Did you have a career coach that helped you make that decision? Did you get that on your own? Any words of wisdom for those who may be working for well-established companies or successful startups, have gone through exits, whatever, but they haven't taken the leap to become an entrepreneur? What would you share with them?
It's a good question. Yeah. So, I mean, I've worked at a 200,000 person global company. I worked at a really small startup, I was the second employee. It grew out to be dozens of people before I left, but it's still very, very different when you start your own thing. I mean, you have to deal with taxes. You have to figure out, company culture, and it's in ways that are more fundamental than when you're, the fourth person there, sixth person there, eighth person there, where you have input into that, you're part of it, but it's not kind of like the ultimate thing that you're creating or deciding upon. I was actually talking with another founder about this recently. I think for all the advantages of Twitter and other places where you can get information, I think one of the things you get there is there's almost a narrative of like, this is the path. And there's kind of a lot of description of like, you found a company, you do this, you raise money, you move forward, and there are all these steps, and it's kind of like an algorithm. And while those are good as examples, what I have found is most companies don't actually go through that path. And I think you need to be open to figuring out what the path is going to be like for you and for your company and what works. And, you can think about what the long term you want to go in, but the short term is going to vary. And I think partially when I started the company, when we started the company, I kind of had that path in my mind, right? Like, this is what you do. And that's not exactly how it works. You got to figure it out what's going to work for your company, for you, for the circumstances. And the challenge is you got to figure out and make decisions on what that path looks like. And, pretty soon after you start the company, it becomes an N of one, right? And your path is unique. And I think you just got to be open and be, I think, humble enough to figure out, like, you don't have all the answers, but that path is something you need to figure out, or your company, your founders, you all need to figure it out. It's not going to figure it out itself. So
sounds like raising children, right, Kim? Every child is different and unique.
You don't have to tell me twice.
It's true. That's kind of what happens. You have 3 kids, or it's like 3 different cultures for each one. Well, we're up on time, Dan. It's been a pleasure to have you. We wish you a lot of success. We'll have to have you back and in the future, see what kind of use cases you guys have developed and the progress you're making. We wish you again a lot of success. Thanks for being with us. Just stay with us as we go off the air in just a minute for wrap up. Kim, what do we got coming up for the rest of the week?
Sure. It is a full week. We've got tomorrow, which is Wednesday the 2nd, Daniel Choi, CEO of Sequoia Games, where we will be talking about bridging the gap between the physical and digital worlds. I think I announced your design thinking show incorrectly yesterday. It's not on Wednesday. It's actually on Thursday. That show's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so Thursday, we've got 2 shows coming up for you. First one is the design thinking segment with Mark Bruno, VP of Product at Sensible Weather, specifically talking about design thinking in complex environments. And then on Thursday afternoon, we will connect with Tom Hammond, CEO of UserWise, how mobile games will drive growth in the future. So yeah, join us 12 o'clock Pacific here on Dojo Live and 10 o'clock a.m. for design thinking. 2
shows on gaming this week. Tomorrow should be interesting. Sounds like The Matrix. Reality meets technology. We'll see.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's got this. I've already kind of checked it out. This technical with the physical, and it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dan, so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
See you guys soon.